Yo, what's going on, everybody? So I want to talk to you guys. I want to have a very real conversation with you guys about whether or not Naruto Uzumaki is a bad father. Now, I know somebody's going to be saying down in the comment section, dang man, you are always taking little pop shots at Naruto. Like, how can you criticize Naruto and call yourself a fan of the series? Okay. Clearly, I love Naruto. My name is Naruto Explained, but that doesn't mean that I can't look at the character Naruto and criticize him, because the character is not perfect. He is far from perfect. I know I joke at times and say Naruto is the Naruto Jesus of the Naruto universe. That's just me taking little pop shots at the character out of fun. Even though you can make arguments that Naruto is written with a messiah complex towards the end of the series, and I can talk about that if you guys want in a serious matter if you guys want me to. Let me know down in the comment section below and I'll start working on that video. But I also think that when you read the Naruto story, it becomes very clear that from the very beginning, Naruto's never been perfect. And so it just blows my mind that whenever I give an honest critique of Naruto, that people get so upset. So I say all that to say that this video, I am going to criticize Naruto, and I'm going to say some things that might be unpopular to some people, but at the same time, I am going to say some stuff that if you are a fan of Naruto Uzumaki, you should walk away from this video better appreciating his character. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the topic of conversation. Is Naruto Uzumaki a bad father? And I'm gonna say right away, I think that that's a complicated answer. And the reason why I say that is, on one hand, when you look at shonen, when you look at the whole shonen trope of bad fathers, it's existed for a long time, a very long time. You've had fathers who have abused the main character. You've had fathers who have outright abandoned their child. You've had just the bad father gag going on for decades now. Like, if you just kind of trickle through things, in Yu Yu Hakusho, Raizen was Yusuke Urameshi's father. And Raizen basically up and left this kid. Like, he was his ancestor, at the same time he was his father. It's a bit complicated. If you read Yu Yu Hakusho, you know that. When you look at more recent series like Fairy Tail, Natsu Dragneel and his father being Igneel, even though that wasn't his real father, Igneel, he made Natsu think that he had left him, when instead he was inside of Natsu's body the entire time. When you look at Hunter x Hunter, which isn't a recent series, and yet because of the 2011 anime, a lot of people think it's recent. With Hunter x Hunter, Jing basically leaves Gon because he's like, yeah, I think being a hunter is more important than being a father. Jing was a very selfish character. When you look at Dragon Ball, Goku, for a very long portion of the series, you could argue that Goku was more focused on his own training and his own personal ambitions than being a father. And so when you look at Naruto, when you start comparing him to some of those characters, even Ishin from Bleach, I think that that might be a better accurate comparison to where you could scale Naruto when it comes to being a bad father, someone with good intentions but bad execution. But when you look at Naruto, he isn't as bad as some of those characters I just told you guys. And I think that when you start asking, is Naruto a bad father, we have to look at why Naruto's doing such a poor job of being a father. We have to look at why. And before we look at that, we have to acknowledge that before Naruto became Hokage, it was very strongly implied that he was there for his kids when they were growing up. Like, in the epilogue scene that happens in Naruto the Last, you see Boruto at age 5 and you see Himawari at age 3. They're running out, they're playing with their father. It's only a small tidbit, and yet the way that those kids were running out to play with their father, it just shows that that Uzumaki household was a household that was filled with love and affection. And because of how hard Boruto turned on Naruto once Naruto became Hokage, a little before Boruto joined the academy, when you look at how hard and how drastically Boruto turned on Naruto, I think that shows you that when Naruto was there, he was very involved in his kids' lives. And I say that to say that when you start looking at where Naruto is now, I'm not going to use the whole, oh, he's being Hokage and that's, you know, pulling on him from all different directions. I'm not going to use that. And I'm not going to bring up, not yet, the whole thing of, well, Naruto can just use a bunch of shadow clones and he used thousands of shadow clones in the war. Surely Naruto could use shadow clones to take time with his kids. That's all true, and I'll address that later on. But when you start looking at why Naruto stumbled, I think it really goes back to the fact that Naruto's never had a father. Like, he had Minato, and he got to interact with Minato during the war. He got to interact with him when he was about to undo the QB seal during the Pain arc. Like, he's had those moments, but at the same time, he never had a father. Like, the closest thing he got was Jiraiya. Even then, when he interacted with Jiraiya, a lot of that stuff happened off screen. Like, we saw very early on how Jiraiya was taking the tough love approach when they were going to search for Tsunade, and you had those moments there where Naruto was getting that male authority figure, and yet at the same time, that a lot of that bonding that took place in between the time skip was stuff that I would have personally loved to see, but I think that Naruto was learning what it means to be a father during that point in time. And even then, it wasn't a full 3 years. It was roughly 2.5 years that Naruto had left the Hidden Leaf Village. And because that's the only time that Naruto legitimately had a father figure, and I'm not counting the filler where the third Hokage was watching in on Naruto and giving him a allowance. I'm not counting that because none of that happened in the manga. None of that was alluded to in the data books that Kishimoto wrote. So if it didn't come from the author, I'm not counting it for this discussion. But when you look at all of that, that's a very short period in Naruto's life. And so to have somebody who's never had a father now be expected to raise somebody, and it's easier when your kids are younger, like they were with Boruto before Naruto became Hokage, to sit there and play with them and say, hey, this isn't right, this is the right thing to do. It's a lot easier to do when the kids are younger and they don't have their personality yet. But when you start looking at Boruto during his developmental years, being the years where he's 7, 8, 9, 10, going through the academy and graduating at age 12, and now as a young male where Boruto is 13 years old currently in the Boruto manga. So right now, Boruto's personality is shaping, and he's gonna be made into the person that is ultimately gonna be Boruto Uzumaki the man. And while Naruto's taken some steps towards being involved in Boruto's life, while he has taken steps on there, and we see him training Boruto, and this isn't a spoiler for anime-only viewers, but while we see Naruto training Boruto in the current arc of the manga and taking time to speak with his kid, while we are seeing that growth, and we're seeing Naruto in person do it. I think that is setting Naruto up for a redemption when it comes to being a good father, but at the same time, he's still learning as he goes. And I've talked to people who have children. I don't have kids, but one of the things that people who have kids have told me is that your first time around with a kid is really hard to do. And in particular, I know someone who is in the situation that Naruto is in, where he didn't have a father growing up. He didn't have a father, and the whole time he didn't really know how to connect with his kid. And so what he would do is bury himself into his work. And I feel like when it comes to Naruto, I think that could be a reasonable explanation for why Naruto, instead of sending a clone to be with Boruto or go there to, himself, Naruto pushed himself into being Hokage. And what I mean by that is Naruto pushed himself head first into taking care of the village. That is very important, don't get me wrong, that's very important. And yet when you look at stuff like what happens in the Naruto Shinden novel, where in the opening, Naruto has that moment where he says, and the anime is gonna be covering this really, really soon, by the way. Hopefully they do this scene correctly, but in the prologue of that novel, you have that moment where when Shikamaru is looking at Naruto and he's realizing Naruto has not seen his children in a long time, Shikamaru goes to the bottom of the stack of papers and he pulls out the bill for a parent and child day, which is essentially a day meant to give shinobi fathers and mothers an opportunity to spend time with their children. Basically, a paid day off, a paid vacation, which ninja don't get very often. And Shikamaru gives it to Naruto, and when Naruto reads it and Shikamaru breaks down to him the purpose of the holiday, Naruto looks at that bill, then looks out the Hokage window, and he realizes that he can't remember the last time that he had a sincere parent and child day, or excuse me, a sincere parent and child moment with his children. He couldn't think back to it, and one of the scenes he thought about was when he sent the shadow clone to Himawari's birthday and the shadow clone drops the cake. Like, those are key moments in Naruto's development, and I think that it's cool that we see Naruto struggling with that. And I think that we're seeing Naruto go from being a bad father to being a good father. I still think that anybody who says, well, Naruto can send shadow clones to be with his kids, you're not fully getting that, what's the right put it? You're not fully getting why that's a bad idea. And the reason why I say that is Boruto, clearly, he's shown in the anime, especially in the anime, he's shown, he can tell when it's a shadow clone and when it's not really his father, except for when his guard's down. And when you start looking at the fact that Himawari, while she hasn't fully awakened the Byakugan, except for in that gag moment, Hinata knows when it's a shadow clone or not. And because Boruto is so in tune with his mother, eventually he will pick up on that. And the big thing is sending shadow clones to be with Naruto's family, eventually that's gonna wear down on Boruto. There's no substitute for the real thing. There's no substitute. And in a sense, I can get why Boruto's saying, well, dad never knew what it was like to have a father who was a Hokage. And the reason why a lot of people are like, oh, that just cuts so deep, because Boruto didn't understand that Naruto didn't have anyone to play catch with. Naruto didn't have anybody push him on the swing. Naruto didn't have someone to have ramen with him. Naruto just had it so bad. I can't stand Boruto for not sucking the ramen noodle doodle of Naruto. And I get it. Naruto had it really rough. And yet at the same time, imagine being that child and having your father there for the first 6.5, 7 years of your life, and then your father gets a huge promotion. And most children don't understand that. Most children don't understand why dad was just here making time for me, and now dad is hardly ever here. And the only time he's here is when he goes to sleep, and then when I wake up, he's never there. Most kids don't understand that. If you understood that at age 7 or 8, you were very mature for your age, because I went to school with kids like that. Especially when my mom got the promotion. I understood where a character like Boruto was coming from. Because when my mom became a regional vice president and my mom was traveling a lot more than she had to do before and working later hours, I was getting frustrated with her, and that was ultimately why my mom never took another promotion that was gonna move us to Chicago and was gonna have her traveling all over the place, because she saw that when it came to my development, that it was ultimately gonna hold me back, because there were things that I needed her at home in order to teach me weight, because it was just us. So I get where Boruto's coming from, but I also get where Naruto's coming from, because Naruto's having to juggle. And I think that's a huge testament to Hinata's character. I really do, because that's probably one of the most frustrating things, is that you have a husband who doesn't know how to be a father, and so you have to teach him not only how to be a good husband, but also how to be a good father. And then you have to be patient and guide those children. So when Boruto gets his moments where he gets frustrated with his father, when Himawari gets those moments where she has a long, sad face, Hinata has to step in and she has to curtail those expectations. She has to explain in a way that doesn't completely crush her children's perceptive of their father. And like I said, that's a huge testament. And for a lot of you guys, you know that I'm not the biggest Hinata fan, and yet I respect the hell out of her for it, because I really feel as if a lot of the progress that Naruto's made in the Boruto manga when it comes to being a father, a lot of that can be credited to Hinata probably having discussions with him. But that's enough from me. What do you guys think about Naruto being a good father or bad father? Where do you fall on the topic of discussion? Is which side of the argument do you fall on, and why do you feel like that? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching all the way into the end. Have an awesome day, guys.